in high school, coming out for pre-draft workouts, to getting drafted, putting that Phoenix Suns hat on my head at the draft with David Stern, blessed memory, to playing my first game, to not starting my first 10 games, and then having a solid rookie year that propelled me to get Rookie of the Year, and then going into the playoffs the following year. Like, it was just a lot of beautiful memories throughout my career here.
Gerald Bourguet, congratulations on getting inducted.
Thank you.
I was just curious, what was your reaction when Matt reached out to you and told you he wanted to induct you and kind of repair a relationship that had been, a little strained over the years?
I was ecstatic. I mean, I was out getting ready to prepare for my son's birthday, and Matt called me and said, "Hey, we got some good news for you." And I immediately was like, "This is the call." And it was a moment of like just cherishing that time and that phone call. And I immediately called my children and said, "Hey, guess what? Your last name is going to be immortalized." It was a great moment.
How cool is that to be able to celebrate with your family here and be embraced by Suns fans and recognized in that way after so long, and retiring as a Knick and all of that in between?
What better way to celebrate this moment, right, than with the fans, with the Sun organization, and my children, right? There's no better way to celebrate this moment. And I think tonight embodied that in its totality.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you make of the job that Matt has done here since taking over? And Matt was the owner back then, and you're finally here. You think you would have finished your career as a Sun?
I do think so. I think if Matt was the owner at that time, Staten Nash would have lasted a lot longer than it happened. But we can't, somewhat cry over spilled milk, right? Everything happens for a reason. And we were able to have so much success here where we get a chance to celebrate a moment like tonight. So I think Matt's doing a phenomenal job of celebrating the legends that played here, and also bringing a culture back to Phoenix that's imperative,
Amare, Washington, 12 News. Congratulations again, growing up in the Valley, watching you play. You just left a legacy here in the Valley, but now you see guys like Devin Booker kind of carrying that torch. He spoke very highly of your relationship. What is it like seeing what he's done and to be the longest tenured player on this team now?
It's great. I mean, that's what the game is about. Passing the torch, right? And he's taking the torch and he's on another level in today's game. The way he plays the game of basketball with such poise and IQ, right? As a young player, you don't see that very often. And I think he's able to study the game in a way where he knows if he continues to play at a high level, he can be one of the greats. And that's the ideal for any player that wants to compete at the highest level. You want to be one of the greats. He's on the right path.
He was telling us that he was younger, earlier in the league, that he would send him texts of encouragement, even on nights where they were getting beaten, but he felt like no one was watching. What were your messages to him, and why was it important to you to kind of reach out to him in that way?
Well, I think for me, it's always about being able to encourage the next generation, right? I saw Devin when he first got drafted in his early career here in Phoenix, and I wanted to be, there for him if he needed any advice, right? Because I've seen it all. I've been persevered through a lot, and I've been able to accomplish, at the highest level. So a lot of times as young players, you need that type of, confirmation from players that have been there. And I felt like it was imperative for me to be the guy who would help him if he needed any help along the way.
Sports, just speaking on the way you developed your game after the injury, the Phoenix analogy that you were making earlier. Can you speak to like the physical things that you were feeling and realizing maybe some of the limitations that weren't there before, and thus like developing the skill and the prowess that you did in the mid-range and in the post?
Yeah, after having the microfracture procedure, which I never heard of that word before until that moment, right? So I had no idea what was in store. And then waking up from surgery, saying that's a procedure that took place. And I was like, okay, wait, so I'm out for the year. And I was surprised by that. And then going through the excruciating recovery, contemplated retirement. It's like, I just cannot keep this going. I mean, there's no chance I can barely walk, right? I will come back reach a high level, have a, great practices. I'm back hanging on the rim, flying through the air. Next day I can barely move. So, but it took a lot of persistence, a lot of determination and self-improvement in order to persevere through that moment. And I think that's what propelled me to continue to become a better player even after the procedure and develop more skills. You look at the glass half full, right? And you try to develop skills that you didn't quite have before and come back as a better player. And that was my idea.
Very great to see you again. Do you have a moment or time that stands out to you above others in your time here with Phoenix?
Yeah, I think one moment that I can think of now is the first time I came to Phoenix as a player that was looking to be drafted here, right, as pre-draft workout. And Mr. Colangelo and I went to the Diamondbacks game, and we sat down and watched the game, and we had conversation. That moment comes right to mind. It was a special moment for me to spend that time with him because I looked up to him as the owner of the team. And then winning Rookie of the Year, being the first player in NBA history to receive that award from high school. And then also the All-Star games, and playing with, I guess we call it now the 7 seconds or less team, but even more so, even after that, just playing with Steve and the guys, the accomplishments we accomplished and the fun we were having, all those moments accumulate to great times, right? So those moments are, those are the best moments of my playing career.
The Diamondbacks win.
The Diamondbacks did win that night, actually. That's right.
Who's some player that you watch now that you feel shared similar qualities in terms of the heart, fearlessness, intensity, some of the guys watching out?
I'm looking around and trying to find a few guys that has that tenacity. I think Giannis has a bit of it. I remember speaking to Tim Gergerich, who was also on the coaching staff my rookie year here in Phoenix. And then he was also with Milwaukee when Giannis was a young player. And he mentioned to me at that time when I was with Phoenix and he was in Milwaukee, he said that, that Giannis reminds him of me, right? So I think Giannis has a bit of that tenacity and fearlessness in his game.
How soon do you have a three-point shot down started now, opposed to back then, that transition?
Right away.
Yeah.
In my rookie year, I hit a three to send the game into overtime in the playoffs. So I was always mentally thinking about shooting a three, right? Even in crunch time. So if that was the wave of the game at that time, I would have for sure shot more threes.
Being back on the floor. I mean, coached a little bit last year. That's something you still want to continue.
To your first question, I don't really miss playing much, right? I played 18 total years of pro, played internationally. I've trained at the highest level. I prepared myself in the off season. Didn't have much time off. Wanted to always be at the top of my game to contend for a championship every year that I played. So I put a lot into the game. So to go through that grind again, I feel great, like spending time with the family, relaxing. So I don't miss it much at all.
Do you have anything to say about Mike D'Antoni's impact on your career here at Phoenix? Obviously, what do you say about his impact on what he did here as well as that 7 seconds list? All those other
I think what Coach D'Antoni brought to the table was he saw the versatility in us as players, right? He saw me as a strong 245-pound power forward, but with the skill and quickness of a small forward. And he saw that most centers wouldn't be able to guard. Like, this guy's strong enough to play center, but he's also quick enough to play forward. Like, let's utilize that, right? And he saw Sean Marion as a player who's a natural small forward, but he can also defend anyone except for the centers. And then Nash was the ultimate floor general, right? So D'Antoni gets credit